ready to rumble. Today we're deep diving into Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
The Rock.
Actor, businessman, maybe even future president. We're breaking down his interview on the PBD podcast.
Oh, yeah, I heard that one.
He really opened up about his career, his drive, what he thinks about America these days.
It's a good one. It's not your typical celebrity fluff piece.
Right. Gets pretty deep. Let's start at the beginning, his origin story.
Okay.
Growing up in Hawaii, getting evicted at 15.
Yeah, tough break.
Can you imagine? Having to move because you can't afford $280 a month in rent.
He actually talks about seeing his mom cry. You can tell that moment really stuck with him.
I bet. That kind of thing fuels you.
Totally. It's like never again. That hunger is obvious in his whole career.
From a 5-year wrestling contract, $750,000,
Odd.
to making $15 million a year.
And that's where things get interesting. It's not just talent. It's the business side.
Right, knowing your worth.
Exactly. The Rock talks about Vince McMahon.
The WWE guy.
Yeah, the CEO. Pushing him to understand the money part of wrestling. Costs, overhead, all that.
I remember he was resistant at first, like, I'm here to wrestle, not be an accountant.
But McMahon insisted, and once The Rock got it,
Boom!
his earnings went through the roof. It's a lesson for all of us.
No matter what you do.
Knowing the financial side, that's power. It lets you advocate for yourself.
And speaking of power, The Rock going to Hollywood.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other story.
They told him, change your name, slim down, ditch the wrestling thing.
Basically be someone else.
Wipe away what made him unique.
They wanted another Depp, Smith, Clooney. But The Rock felt like they were trying to put him in a box.
Stifling him.
And he wasn't having it.
He was like, nope, I'm going to be me. And Hollywood had to adapt.
It's wild, right? His individuality, that became his strength.
People said a guy his size wouldn't make it.
But he proved them wrong. By being himself, he connected with audiences worldwide.
It's that authenticity it shows in his competitive spirit, too.
How so?
He's got this enemy-up philosophy, always going against the best.
To push himself.
Makes you think, are we challenging ourselves enough?
Good point.
Who are we measuring ourselves against?
He even takes it a step further. He's competing with himself, too.
Always trying to top his own best.
That's powerful, not just focusing on what others are doing.
It's that internal drive.
Okay.
And it goes back to working hard, even when no one's watching.
Right, like those early wrestling days, he was told to smile all the time.
Even when getting beat,
It felt fake to him.
the audience could sense it.
He wanted respect, not handouts.
Not just because of his dad and grandpa being wrestlers.
Had to earn it.
And speaking of things you can sense, he talks about this concept of mana,
Oh, interesting.
this inner power and energy that people can pick up on.
Like an aura.
Have you ever met someone who just has it?
Totally. He even says he felt that manna in the room during the PBD interview.
Wow.
It's this intangible thing, confidence, self-belief. He thinks it's a big part of his success.
For sure. Now let's switch gears, talk about The Rock's views on America. He gets mentioned as a potential president a lot.
He does.
And he's got some interesting thoughts on leadership, especially with all the division these days.
He talks about unity, guidance, grit, humility, strength.
Especially now.
He even brings up the assassination attempt on President Trump,
Heavy stuff.
like a wake-up call about how divided we are.
But he doesn't just leave it there, doom and gloom.
Right.
He says America's not defined by that violence. He sees hope for unity, for progress.
So it's not about ignoring the problems.
It's about remembering we're all in this together.
I like that.
Which brings us back to the president thing. The Rock's always on those Vegas odds lists.
What does he say about it?
He's definitely aware of the impact on his family, his career,
Makes sense.
and he knows being president means taking specific positions.
Which he hasn't really done publicly.
It'd be a huge shift. Right now, he can express his values without,
Picking sides.
Exactly. What's interesting is he thinks a president should unify.
Bring people together.
Someone open to listening even to those they disagree with.
And that's something he's good at, connecting with all kinds of people.
He's done that his whole career.
It's easy to get caught up in The Rock's persona.
Right. Larger than life.
But this interview, it shows a more vulnerable side, too.
Definitely. He talks about losing his dad.
Yeah, and the conflict they had before he passed.
Must have been tough, especially since it sounds like it was sudden.
He said it was an embolism, totally unexpected.
And it happened right after their biggest fight.
Weeks later, yeah. The Rock admits he was angry at the time.
Man, that's got to weigh on.
Especially knowing they can't reconcile now.
It's a reminder. Life's fragile. Cherish the people you have.
Absolutely. Don't wait to tell them how you feel.
He even said he wished he could hug his dad one more time, tell him it was okay.
You can hear that regret in his voice.
It's powerful. It connects to something else he talked about, mentorship.
Oh yeah, the people who guided him.
He mentions Vince McMahon, of course.
Pushing him on the business side.
But there's another name that surprised me. Dana White.
The UFC guy.
Yeah. What does he have to do with The Rock's journey?
It shows mentors can come from anywhere.
Totally.
The Rock was hesitant about social media.
Didn't see the point.
But Dana White was already killing it online. He gave The Rock some advice.
So Dana White's the reason The Rock's on Twitter and Instagram.
He basically told him, social media is your most powerful tool. Connect with fans, control your narrative.
Wow, and look at him now.
Most followed American man in the world.
Crazy how one conversation can change everything.
It's about being open to new ideas, seeking guidance from people who've been there.
Who've achieved what you want.
Mentors can spot things you miss, help unlock your potential.
Okay, so we've got origin story, Hollywood success, political views, mentorship. Anything else?
There's this thread about his next enemy. I found it revealing.
He's kind of vague about it.
But it shows where his head's at. He's looking for things to run towards, not just walk towards.
Even if he doesn't have a specific target yet.
And he tied that to how he chooses projects now. Used to be audience first.
But that wasn't always fulfilling.
Now it's passion first. Projects he loves, things he's excited about.
If he's passionate, the audience will feel it.
Exactly. That shift in perspective seems to be working.
It's like align your work with your passion.
You'll find more fulfillment and probably more success.
This whole interview's full of gems. Anything stand out to you?
It's hard to pick just one, but that moment when The Rock decided, I'm gonna be me, defied Hollywood.
Such a powerful lesson in authenticity.
He flipped the script. You don't have to fit in to make it.
He became an icon by being himself.
And his story shows success isn't a straight line.
There are setbacks, doubts, tough choices.
But those challenges, that's where you find your strength.
It's inspiring how he uses his platform to share his values, inspire others.
There's always that talk about him running for president.
Whether he does or not, his story teaches us about leadership, authenticity, hard work. From a couple $100 a match to a
global icon.
It's crazy how far he's come.
And what gets me is he hasn't lost himself in all of it.
Yeah, he's still grounded.
Like you can see that same drive, that authenticity, even in those old wrestling clips.
He could have easily gone the other way with all that fame.
But he didn't. Maybe that's part of why people connect with him.
Makes him relatable.
Definitely. And it makes that president question even more interesting.
Do you think he'll actually go for it?
He's definitely thought about it, weighed the pros and cons.
It's a tough gig.
He's pretty honest about the downsides, the scrutiny, the negativity.
He even called politics a cesspool.
Yeah. Which, let's face it, it kind of is these days.
Takes a thick skin to survive in that world, let alone thrive.
And The Rock, he's shown he can handle pressure.
He's overcome a lot.
So, hypothetically, if he did run.
Yeah. What kind of leader do you see him being?
Based on this interview, I think he'd be big on unity.
Bringing people together.
He talked about listening, even to those you don't agree with.
And that grit, that determination. He wouldn't shy away from tough calls.
He'd be straight up about the problems, but also offer hope.
Not all doom and gloom.
He wouldn't sugarcoat it, but he wouldn't let us wallow either.
It's like his story is almost a classic hero's journey.
Oh, yeah, totally. Humble beginnings.
Challenges, triumphs, but always another mountain.
And that's what we should take from this. Hard work, authenticity, embracing those challenges.
Those are the keys.
So what mountains are you ready to climb?
What steps can you take today to get closer to your goals?
Find your passion and run towards it.
Don't just walk. Run towards it.
That's how you achieve greatness, whatever that means for you.
Great advice. Thanks for breaking down this interview with me. It's been fascinating.
My pleasure. The Rock story, it's a good reminder that anything's possible.
Absolutely. To all our listeners out there, keep chasing those dreams.
And remember, stay authentic, stay hungry.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.